Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, was Zeus' sister, and a beautiful goddess with a golden head. Zeus, king of the gods, persistently courted Demeter, and eventually, they had a daughter named Persephone. Persephone grew more beautiful as she grew older, and Demeter, concerned about the desires of male gods for her young daughter, hid her in Sicily and raised her. Then one day, Hades, who briefly emerged from the underworld to patrol the Etna volcano, while playing in a flower garden on the island, found Persephone. Hades fell in love with her at first sight. So he asked Zeus to give Persephone to him as his wife. In other words, he intended to marry his niece, but Zeus allowed him to do so, considering his relationship with the underworld king beyond his reach. With Zeus' approval, Hades now began to contemplate how to win Persephone's heart. Hades, who was busy managing the dead every day and handling underworld affairs, did not know anything about women's hearts. So he asked Zeus for advice, who had countless experiences with females. Zeus laughed loudly and provided him with a clear solution. Hades embraced Persephone and kidnapped her into the underworld, following Zeus's advice. However, Persephone, who was roughly dragged, cried every day and resented Hades. Realizing that something was amiss, Hades belatedly sought to appease Persephone, and promised to send her back to the earth later, though not immediately. Then Hades offered her pomegranate. Persephone, fearing that Hades might retract his promise to return her to the surface if offended, consumed 4 pomegranate seeds, despite not wanting to eat anything. Meanwhile, Demeter, upon hearing Persephone's screams during the kidnapping, realized that something was wrong with her daughter. She questioned the nymphs who were with her daughter about Persephone's whereabouts, but the nymphs, fearful of Hades, pretended not to know. Demeter searched for her daughter in every direction, sorrowfully, but found no traces of Persephone disappearing into the ground. In her despair, Demeter slumped by the sea, where Poseidon approached her. Poseidon, who usually had Demeter in his thoughts, began to comfort her sadness and secretly court her. Demeter, fed up, transformed into a horse and attempted to flee. But Poseidon also transformed into a horse and pursued her until finally, Demeter relented, resulting in the birth of Arion between the two gods. Demeter, who had lost her daughter and was filled with terror, fell into deep despair. Helios, the sun god, observed everything from heaven, and recounted the entire story to Demeter. Demeter was consumed with rage upon learning that Hades had kidnapped Persephone, and that Zeus had acquiesced. This fierce anger of the agricultural goddess caused all crops in Greece to wither, and devastated the entire land. When a severe famine struck the human world due to Demeter's anger, her offerings to the Olympian gods were naturally cut off. And Zeus, astonished, ordered the gods to quickly appease Demeter. The gods took turns offering gifts to Demeter. Dionysus presented the finest wine. Artemis and Apollo offered the softest animal skins. Athena offered beautiful silk, and Hera and Aphrodite presented colorful jewelry. However, Demeter refused all these offerings and threatened that if Persephone was not returned to her, she would bring ruin to all of Greece. Eventually, Zeus summoned Hermes, the messenger, and sent him to the underworld to retrieve Persephone. Upon reaching the underworld, Hermes conveyed Zeus' request to Hades to release Persephone. At that point, Hades laughed, and revealed that Persephone had already consumed food from the underworld. According to the rule, if one eats food from the underworld, they must remain there. Hades used this to his advantage, mentioning that Persephone had consumed 4 pomegranate seeds. Eventually, Demeter was reunited with her daughter, but due to Persephone's consumption of the pomegranate seeds, she had to spend 4 months of the year in the underworld as Hades' wife, in accordance with the underworld's rules. Consequently, when Persephone is in the underworld for 4 months, crops do not grow, and upon her return to the earth, spring arrives, full of joy and blessings.